Cheers. Hey guys, Ethan here. So before I get into today's video, I just want to say thank you real quick to everyone that's liked and subscribed to this channel. You may or may not have seen it, but I posted a day trading video on this channel and you guys just blew it up. It's at like 35,000 views and like 1,000 likes. Just want to say thank you guys so much. It's really cool to see that other people value my words of like what I have to say on here and stuff. And so I really appreciate you guys for taking an interest. But anyways, we'll go ahead and get into today's video. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about some mistakes that I made with money when I was younger. And, they're applicable today and they're applicable when I was younger. And so it doesn't really matter what age you are, I don't think, but these are some things that kind of kept me stuck. And I got 5 of them. They're not in any particular order. I think they're all equally important. So I want you to go ahead and stick around to the end of this video. And if you like this kind of stuff, I put a lot of thought into this. Go ahead and hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. So one of the big mistakes that I made when I was younger is spending money I don't have. Now, when I was younger, if there was something that I wanted to buy, like I'd work my butt off for that money and buy it. But if there was something that was really expensive, I would think, oh, I'll just borrow that money. But getting into that mindset of, oh, I don't have to, how can I, instead of thinking, okay, how can I earn the money for that? Just like, oh, I could borrow it so I don't need to work for it. And that kind of kept me stuck because I'd always have like a debt. And that's not a good way to operate, because when you have that debt, it's always in the back of your mind and it's like this burden on your back. And you shouldn't be figuring out and spending money on things that you can't put your hand on the money. That's what you should be able to do, is be able to only spend money that you can physically put your hands on. um, of course there's like certain situations, but in general, like especially if you're buying like some luxury item or something like that, like you should never borrow money to pay for stuff like that. But getting into that mindset of, oh, I'll just borrow the money for something I want to buy, that's not a very good way to go about it, because it starts to create a habit of a habit within your mind of how you pay for something. So instead of thinking, okay, how can I earn that money? How can I afford that? It's, oh, I'll just take the easy way. I'll just borrow it or whatever. And it kind of sets you up for failure because you're constantly taking on debt. And debt's not a good thing to have, right? And, it's like always in the back of your mind and you're always thinking about it. And so that was one of the first big mistakes I made. So the second mistake that I made was not investing early enough in my Roth IRA. So when I was about 14, that's when I first heard about a Roth IRA and understood what it was. And back then I wasn't making enough money to max it out, but I still should have started contributing to it. But it was always like, oh, when I have enough money, I'll put it in there. And it just wasn't something that I prioritized. And, if I literally did anything, like threw my money at any stock or any index, like it'd be up a whole lot, right? From if I didn't do what I did with it, was just like spend it on like useless things. But yeah, that's definitely something I would do, because there's so much advantages to a Roth IRA and you got to take advantage of that as early as you can, right? It's any taxable income, you can contribute that when you're young. So you can have your parents open up a custodial account for you if you're under the age of 18 in most states. But in most places, as long as you're 18, you can open your own account. So I would get started on that as soon as possible. Another mistake I made was just being impatient overall. So this kind of goes back to the day trading stuff of like, oh, I always wanted to have my money working for me, and sometimes that did not work to my advantage, because most of the things that I would put my money into for it to work for me, don't want to be sitting in cash, was super risky investments that were just not worth it. Like if I just put my money in like an index or literally any stock, or just held on to it, like that would be so much better than doing these super risky like options, or whatever it was at the time that I was investing in. And that's kind of a hard thing to do when you're young, because you're your reference of time and your overall time horizon is very short, and so it's hard to think super long term, like 10, 20 years out, but it takes a lot of discipline. And so that's something that I would definitely advise, is being able to have a long-term perspective when it comes to your money and investing. All right, my fourth mistake was buying stupid stuff on Amazon. So when I was like 15, I was making money from mowing lawns, right? The cash was coming in. And I thought it was so cool that I could just buy whatever I wanted off of Amazon. And I remember I had like 9 or 10 boxes on the dining room counter, the dining room table, and I thought it was so cool. Like I could buy all these things, and I like hardly used any of them, and I was just wasting my money on like dumb stuff. Like I think I bought like a $300 uh like bike repair kit that I used once. Just buying stupid things that are just like not going to give you any sort of ROI. Um, yeah, and like today, I'm a whole lot more conscious on what I spend my money on, obviously, but um, that'll save you a lot in the long run if you can just, because like what 15-year-old needs, like like a 15-year-old does not need a whole lot of stuff. And so if you can limit your spending when you're young, and like if you just save it, or if you go intelligently about it and invest it in like a an index or something within a Roth IRA or something, you will be so much further ahead. And so yeah, I would definitely not buy dumb things with your money when you're young. All right, guys. So the last thing on this list was not understanding how credit works. So in my mind, I thought that, okay, if I borrow a lot of money and pay it back immediately, the bank would think, oh, this guy can borrow a lot of money and pay it back. Let's give him more because he seems like he's able to do that a lot. That's not how credit works, guys. So some of the big things that impact your credit are, how many accounts you have open, how long your accounts have been there, your credit utilization ratio. There's a lot of other factors, but like the thing that I was screwing up on is I was like almost maxing out my credit cards because I thought that would be a good thing, and then I'd pay it back immediately. But that's like just really dumb. So actually what's good is having a low credit card utilization ratio. So I always do like less than 10%, right? I utilize less than 10% of my overall credit, on my credit cards. When it comes to life or making financial decisions, because if you know where the hazards are, where the landmines are, you can kind of steer clear, because there's a couple things that um, they're wrong, and if you do them, they can be pretty catastrophic. And if you stay away from those things, pretty much anything else will work, or be in your benefit. And so that's kind of the purpose of this video. These are just kind of like my landmines that I had, and some things that could be helpful to steer clear of, as you go along in your financial journey. And hopefully, you can take something out of this and learn from my mistakes. That's the whole purpose of this channel. A lot of them are my mistakes just because I think there's a lot of people that have similar experiences. And if I could just get this out to people and they can see this and understand that, they're not the only people making these mistakes. And if they haven't made these mistakes, to steer clear of them before they make them, I think overall that's like a net positive. So one of the things that I try to do with this channel is provide my own unique perspective on things, whether that's how I think about money in a certain way, or a certain experience that I had with something, because there's hundreds, thousands of YouTube videos out there about generic finance stuff, and people that can explain concepts and financial concepts and things of that nature in a far more like entertaining way than I can. So I'll leave that to them. And so the purpose of this channel here is I want to be able to provide my unique perspective, because I don't think there should be excess, right? If someone's already made a YouTube video about how to buy a stock, I'm not going to do that, because there's no inherent value that I'm adding by doing that, right? All right, guys, if you made it this far into the video, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for sticking around. And, taking the time out of your day to listen to me talk about this kind of stuff. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. And also consider subscribing to the channel. All right, thank you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.